Well, our crew's back from space, and we have with us the man who's been not once, but twice on the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. We're going to talk about it tonight on ParksCenter. Welcome to ParksCenter for March 6, 2022. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside, and please subscribe to WDWNT for lots of great content, and like this video if you can. Right now, we have with us Mr. Tom Corless, who is fresh back from space and ready to talk about it. Look how happy he is.
It's a rarity.
It's a rarity for you to be happy? Yeah, thanks for being on.
It only took $12,000 for me to be happy. Who says money can't buy happiness?
Not me, man. Not me. Thanks for being on. I appreciate it. Tom went on a cruise this week. I don't know if you guys heard about it or not, but the Galactic Starcruiser took off on March 1st. And Tom, you were on the first flight and the second flight, paid out of your own pocket to go.
The only two-time paying customer in the history of the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser.
The entire history of the Starcruiser. Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. That's
fine. We are awed and honored to have you in our presence, so thank you so much for being here. I just want to say, why didn't you take me? That's really all I want to know. I mean, you've been twice and I haven't been at all. That just doesn't seem fair.
As I go more, I want them to be special, so I figure Rob's first time will be very special. So the more I get bored of it, I will take you later so I can keep it fresh and interesting.
Yes, just be gentle with me. So, you know...
Right into the trundle bed, right?
Wow.
Call it getting Rivieran.
Yes, exactly. So, just to kind of reiterate here, WDWNT has been covering this all along. We have walkthrough videos of the rooms, videos of the entertainment. Yeah. We have food reviews on the website, and you even did an honest opinion video for about an hour before, and then we have a full guide on the website. So there is a lot of information out there. So some of this might be...
And it's not all out there yet also, too. It's worth mentioning. We still have dozens of posts and videos and things that are still not up yet. That's how much there is to cover. Okay. Just want to put that out there.
No, all good. So tonight we're going to talk about a lot of questions, some of them that are my own questions. And in the back half of the show, we're going to take questions from the chat, and anybody can ask a question, so think about those now. Sound good? All good?
Yeah, that works for me.
So the first thing I have to ask you about is something that I've struggled with is spoilers. This is a very expensive trip to take, and there's that walking that line between research and just getting the entire information and the whole story. Before you went on board, how much of that did you take in? And again, because we're going to be talking about this for the next 90 minutes, what would you recommend for people who are watching and want to go but are trying to avoid spoilers?
I took in very little. So it's worth noting. You said, you know, obviously since it opened, we've been covering this. What's amazing about Starcruiser is WDWNT is the beginning of the story from day one, right? So we were the first. Someone sent us the survey when the survey was put out about them doing a 2-night immersive Star Wars story hotel. That story began on WDWNT. So we are the beginning of the public's intake of this idea. And then, of course, we posted the blueprints and schematics and all those fun things along the way. And so in some cases, things were spoiled for me very early on because there were some things, especially in the finale show, that we knew about just because we knew what certain rooms were and what certain objects in the atrium would do. And where certain things were staged, so there was some level of spoilers. But I will say this, as far as spoilers, once the media went, I tried to at least look at absolutely nothing. So the only things I had seen like 4 seconds, because again, I have to look on social media to keep up on news. And so in scrolling, you know, for our usual news coverage, it was inevitable I would have seen something. So I saw like Awani, the alien character walking around. I saw some Yoda projection thing I won't spoil. Some little things like that, and other than that, I really stayed away. People were like, "Did you watch the 3-hour video?" I was like, "No, I didn't watch the 3-hour video. I'm going twice this week. I would like to. I don't know. I want to go in fresh, which with everything, it's not always a thing I do. There's been plenty of times where I've certainly seen videos and photos and things before I've ever experienced something at the park. There are cases where that hasn't happened, where things didn't really open for a media event. They just kind of opened the day of Rise of the Resistance and some things like that. But no, in this case, I wanted to go in as blind as possible, and I think people at home probably want to go in blind too. So if you are legitimately interested in it, I will say this: we are going to put out several posts that are labeled as spoiler-free in the course of the next week, which are meant just to prepare you, to make sure you know what you need to know to have the edge before you go in, so that way you make the most of the $6,000 or more you're spending on the Starcruiser, right? And then if you don't think you're ever going to go, or you just really don't care about spoilers, we have all of that stuff for you too. In fact, like right here on YouTube, you'll be able to watch basically the 2 full tracks we went on in the course of the 2 cruises. You could watch, you can watch a full experience. So we've got a little bit of something for everybody.
Very cool. So before we get further into it, we're going to be talking about price a lot. And just to reiterate for anyone who has not heard, a 2-person cabin for this is $4,800. 3 guests in a cabin, $5,300. And for 4 guests in a cabin, $6,000 for a 2-night excursion.
And those prices fluctuate seasonally also, it's worth noting, because for 2 guests, we paid more than $4,800 on the second cruise.
Is it because of the weather in space?
No, it's just because of the seasons on Earth.
Earth.
When high vacation season on Earth. As we kept saying, as people on the Starcruiser kept asking, what planet are you all from? And we would say Earth, and they'd be like, yeah, there's a lot of Earth people on this cruise. And I would say, yeah, I think it's a vacation week. I think it's spring break on Earth, and that's probably why.
Yeah, and for this one, it says specifically for the voyage dates,
starting from
yes, August 20th to September 17th, and it does say that's in that orange starting from. So
weeknights.
Oof.
It says weeknights also.
It's just worse than like a 1990s cell phone plan. There's a lot to, and again, this goes back to what we were just talking about. There's a lot to know when you're preparing for this, that you want to get in as much as you possibly can. I'm the same way about an attraction when it opens up, is that I want to know, as much about where I'm supposed to stand for Remy's Ratatouille adventure, or what time I need to get up to get the virtual queue, or if they offer something else, or how long it's going to take, and all that stuff. Because when I get there, I think everybody who watches this show is probably, considers themselves somewhat of a Disney expert as well. So, you want to be the guy that knows that stuff, and you don't want to miss something, and you also don't want to mislead anybody, like if you're the Sherpa or the guide of your tour. So again, I'm that's just the thing I've struggled with all along from this. I didn't mind seeing the blueprints. I didn't mind seeing how the rooms are going to be set up. But when we get into the specifics of the entertainment and things like that, that's when I start to shy away from it and go, I don't want to necessarily see too much. So
that's what you don't want to see. Like, obviously seeing the atrium, what the atrium looks like, is probably not going to ruin your voyage, but knowing some story stuff in advance probably will lessen some of it.
Well, I mean, that's like seeing Cinderella Castle, sort of. It's like you already know what it looks like for the first time, but it's different when you're there, I assume.
Yeah, like I tell people, like, the first time I went to Tokyo, like, I had seen videos of every single ride, I had seen photos of every inch of the park. Like, that didn't detract in any way. It really didn't detract in any way. In this case, because it is a live theater, almost a 40-something hour live theater performance, it could be kind of spoiled. But then again, so much of it will be different on every cruise that in some cases it won't be. So.
Yeah. All right, so let's go through this a little bit. I've kind of sectioned off the show ParksCenter style so we can go through some of these topics, because I'm sure we could talk about this all night, because you and I have not talked since you've been to space, so I'm very excited to get some of your thoughts on this. But let's talk about preparing to go. So we've already mentioned this is a $6,000 trip for a family of 4, and I know that there was a video that they sent out that's, that was kind of like a tease that says, here we go, you're getting ready. What kind of stuff happened before you went? And then on top of that, I know there were some opportunities to buy things ahead of time, including costumes. What was that experience like?
So I never got any of the emails. Fun fact, classic Disney style. I never got any of the actual emails. So I don't know. I know people got that shoddy video, which we made fun of on News Tonight a couple weeks ago. And there were some emails more recently that had some preview pictures that showed off some things we hadn't seen before. Very minor. Just to remind you to make sure you've set up you've scheduled your lightsaber training and your bridge ops and those sorts of things. Your transport time to Batu, your transport time back to Earth, all those things. And then the other thing you already mentioned is because there is a big LARPing or role play or cosplay, depending on your level of involvement, element to this thing, they are pre-selling costuming, the stuff they sell in the Chandrilla collection shop, off and on based on availability. Several pieces weren't available when I went to order them ahead of the cruise. I think I managed to get one outfit before the cruise, and then the rest I just bought on the ship. And it's readily available on the ship as soon as you arrive, so if you want to arrive in regular clothes and then just go shopping right away, you have a couple hours before you really dive into anything anyway, so you can go do that. And they're fun outfits. They're I don't know, the Disney Star Wars costume clothing has been a variable quality. So some pieces I had, the belt wasn't great. The clasps on the belt, we kind of had to make our own clasp to keep them on. But there were some pieces that were great. That whole senator getup, the Bail Organa thing, I like that. The big heavy coat and the shirt and all that. And I went and bought some green pants at Target, the cheapest purchase of the costume. Please, I decided, like an idiot, I decided like a week and a half before I was going to dress up. And so it was this mad dash over a week and a half to figure out costuming. Obviously, Lauren, my assistant, had to help with some stuff. She made me a phone case thing. I lost sound. There we go. Fix that. Now I could hear you again. She made me like a data pad type phone case, and we decorated like a bag. We ordered a bunch of stuff from Amazon. I went to Zara at Disney Springs, which, in case you didn't know, I don't usually shop at Zara, and I assume most people in the WDWNT audience probably don't. It doesn't seem like a WDWNT audience kind of place. But if you're looking for things that look kind of alien, Zara's a great option. Little pricey, not overly pricey, but I did manage to find a couple pairs of pants and things that worked for the outfits there. But the best stuff I got was it was easier just to buy the stuff. Like, it's expensive, but it was easier to buy the outfits on the Starliner. If you're looking for other stuff, just go to Zara or Target and just buy some pants and colors that line up with the stuff you plan to buy on the ship, maybe. But I suggest dressing up, especially if for nothing else. The 2 dinner services, the 2 evenings, people do dress up, and you might feel underdressed otherwise. So I would prepare to take part. Like, my parents are asking, because I'm going to take them in May, and they were already asking, like, do we need clothes? I was like, I would get some clothes. I would. If you're going this far, if you're going to spend this money, I would get in on the fun. I think it's important. I know, like, the first cruise I got involved as far as the clothes, but I kind of sat back otherwise, and I regretted that on the first cruise. And then the second cruise, I was like, no, I'm going to jump in and interact with characters and guests and everybody more, and it's a more enjoyable experience if you do so. Not that it's bad if you don't, but I felt greater rewarded by being a part of the show, and so people should try to be part of the show.
So I assume anybody who was a first adopter for this, I know that all of the influencers that were on there a lot of them were cosplayers that happened the week before the ship launch. So
they already had all their costumes,
Right, and then I assume anybody who goes first time is either a blogger or a diehard fan, so obviously would dress up. Do you think that like, how much of the ship was people dressed up, would you say, 50-50?
No. So, like, it depends on the time of day. So arrival day, 50-50. As that day goes on, towards dinner, you're probably talking 80-20. And all this can change over time, right? Like, you could have this progression where the interest level goes like that over time, right? So you're right at the beginning of this thing. These are obviously going to be people that really care. And as you go on, it could lessen, but what I've seen so far is, especially at the dinner services, people are dressed up. So it's like 70-30, 80-20, people dressed up versus not dressed up. On Batu, 50-50, 40-60 the other way because you're going into a theme park and it's hot. And so maybe you don't want to dress up, and that's fine. What I did for Batu was I decided I had a couple of Roosevelt shirts that weren't so character-driven as this one. So I wore like the one that is the, what is the Mandalorian material? The
Beskar?
What is the Beskar? So they have a shirt that's literally just the pattern of what Beskar looks like when it was turned into Imperial currency, I guess. And it has the little Imperial stamp every so often, but it's just a Beskar pattern. I was like, I found some gray pants that didn't have like normal cargo pockets on it, and I was like, that's good for Batu. That's what I'm doing. But otherwise, I you know, robes, a lot of robes, a lot of things like that. But yeah, people are dressing up.
That's the thing, though, is that I think if everyone's doing it, it's kind of like that nightmare scenario where you're the person that shows up at the party thinking it's a costume party and it's not. You know, we've seen that bit a bunch. So you do think that, like, if you're doing this,
go for it.
Go for it all the way.
You have to do it, yeah.
So here's one of the costumes. We covered this on the site, this article with all the costumes, and this was early on, and the links were all back to Shop Disney. When I go to Shop Disney now, only the headpieces are available. Is that
I think people have bought in, and it's hard to find stuff ahead now, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really disappointing when I want to go get those long black gloves and I put them in my cart and it says, no, you can't. You're not special. Yeah, anytime Disney tells me I'm not special, I die just a little bit inside. Okay.
I get that from them every day.
So same.
But yeah, then I show up on a Starcruiser, everyone's like, there he is. Oh God, he's there.
Oh, so exciting. When you went on, the first cruise, you had an alter ego, correct?
Yes and no, right? So I wanted to have the alter ego because I felt that like that's what people were going to do. Like you were going to come up with a name and stuff, right? And so I had the idea of it was Got Gamib, which we came up with on News Tonight in some random discussion, and it's attractions typically, especially in Disney internet fandom, we come up with acronyms to shorten attraction names for the sake of tweeting and on forums. Back in the day, kids look up what a forum was. We used to just shorten the names of things. And so Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout shortens to GOTG:MB. And we were making fun of how Tower Terror was Tot. And I was like, well, it's certainly better than Got Gamib. And as I said Got Gamib, I was like, that sounds like a Star Wars character name. And so my Star Wars character name was Got Gamib. And the whole backstory we had was he was the world's foremost Starcruiser blogger and vlogger who worked for Galactic Starcruiser News Today. And so that reflected in the costume, some of the accessories we made. But what you learn is because your magic band, your data band, whatever you want, M-band is what it's called on the ship, when you scan this at places, it has your real name. So what you come to find is it's best just to use your real name anyway. So I know that probably some of the more hardcore LARP people are going to be sad about that, but I think it works best because with the reputation system, it's good for the characters to know your real name also, because they may try to, in some roundabout way, they want to be able to talk to you, and also I think in some cases put you on the right track story-wise too. So it's also really cool if you do enough with your, with certain characters. The like 3 or 4 highest ranking people to them, or that make the biggest impression on them, get called out in the finale show. So if you want to get called out in the finale show by your real name, that's, if you're going to go all in on this, I think that's kind of the goal. You want someone to be like, thanks to the help of Tom, we blah, blah, blah.
Did you get called out in the finale show?
No,
oh,
no.
Bummer.
No.
All right, let's find somebody who was we can get on this show. Let's have some quality people. That'd be great. All right, let's move on to the next thing, Arrival. A huge part of Disney, the Disney experience to me is the Arrival. I think that's what's so kind of magical about the Magic Kingdom. Now, for somebody who's been as many times as you have or I have, it's a pain in the butt. Well, oh man, I got to get on a monorail. Let me just go ahead and park over at Grand Floridian. But the original entrance to Magic Kingdom with the idea that instead of the parking lot experience that you would have had at Disneyland back in the day that Walt wanted this grand entrance, and the monorail comes around one side or the ferry, and you just this whole huge reveal and the excitement of it. I talked recently that I feel like with Disneyland we kind of have that now that the tram is back, because it's like, welcome aboard and we hope you have a great day and here's some cool things, and you know, there's what the Magical Express was.
Splitsville, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, exactly, all those fun things. So how was the arrival experience? Because I mean, I see you here beyond excited at this point. So, so like, I guess I got to get a picture over by this wall. Somebody take my picture. How was the arrival experience?
The sun's right in my face.
Yeah.
So you talked about that whole build up to Magic Kingdom. So of course we tweeted right out of the gate we were negative, which is what people expect from me at this point. And of course some people were like, "It's not part of the experience."
Was it this?
Which is dumb. Yeah, so what's dumb here is you gave the perfect example of what the arrival experience is supposed to be. It's not you see the show buildings and the backstage and all of that. That's not what an arrival at Magic Kingdom is, and it's not what any arrival is supposed to be. So yeah, you're talking about the crates. Before the crates, it's way worse, because that turn in is the whole back of Galaxy's Edge. Now, that's the place if you're going to stay in the story the whole time, there are two places you are going. You are going on the Starcruiser and to Batu. And you know what two backstages and show buildings you see on the way into your immersive experience? The Starcruiser and Galaxy's Edge. So those big impressive rocks that you're supposed to believe are real spires, when you get to Batu, you've seen that they're on sticks as you drive in. And then you pass the Hollywood Studios cast parking security booth next to some repainted storage crates that they were using in the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run extended queue for a while. And then you pass like some temporary concrete barriers. And then you see the back of the hotel building. And then finally you arrive at like the little spire thing at the entrance and the parking booth, the security booth, and then pull up to the front of the... So there's the spire thing. Things get better at this point. There's the spire thing. There's the security booth. There's the terminal, which, I mean, it looks like a cruise terminal. Sure, there's nothing wrong with this side.
Yeah.
And things get better from this point right away, because we pull up, they tell us where to go. Someone opens all the doors for us. They open the trunk. They start taking the bags, and they make sure it's white gloves. So not only did they take everything, they ask if we want a picture. They take a picture, and then they walk us over to someone to check us in. They check us in. They put us in the line like we've been walked through. They got us our bag with our M-bands and the data pads we're going to use, because they don't want you using your own device, because something screwy is going on with
and
these.
A Xerox terms of use paper. They hand you that. That's
you didn't
attractive.
actually have to sign that. Fun fact: no one ever made us sign that or give them back.
Wow.
So, in the end, they decided if a phone walks away, we don't even care, probably. Which for the price you paid, you shouldn't take a phone, but if one got lost, they should just be like, all right, it happened.
Let me ask you a quick question about the phone, though. Did you know that they were going to hand you one versus you actually bringing your own? Because I assumed...
No, it was a thing that started... No, that was the original plan, and then they realized people were missing things. They realized certain things weren't populating, and so they found out which device the Play app worked best on, and they got those, and they set them up and gave you chargers and everything. And I will say this, if you use their data pad, everything went fine. I mean, I wanted to know what was wrong. I wanted to know why this was happening. So what I did, I used my phone the first day and a half. I used the phone. And I was like, well, let's see at what point something goes wrong. And then finally I realized there were certain things I was not getting prompted to do. It had not unlocked the engineering room for me yet, and a couple things like that other people had, and I said, okay, then I should switch over. As soon as I switched over, it prompted those things, and I did them, and I caught back up with everybody. So, yes, use the data pad they give you. I don't know if at some point they're going to solve this, but regardless, this does handle the issue. I actually kind of like it better, because if you want to take photos or video at any point while you're doing stuff. You have your device in another hand. So I'm not, at first I was like, oh, that's lame. And then as time went on, I was like, okay. But the larger problem is that a lot of people went all out decorating, just like they did when Galaxy's Edge opened. A lot of people built their own data pad case thing. And we saw some, I mean, mine is junk compared to what we saw. Some people we know had the most incredible looking things with them. And then they were kind of bummed because they're like, well, I guess I'll just carry this around for photos. I was like, yeah, I guess so. And so it worked, though. It worked flawlessly, I felt. So, I'm glad they came up with a solution.
Yeah, this communicator that they gave you, it was so, like, do you think they're going to need this in, like, for the long haul? And if so, do you foresee them doing something more special with it? Better case? Anything?
I don't think they know. I don't think they know at this point.
Okay.
We'll see. Again, we're going back in a couple months, mostly because we want to see what lasts. We've learned from what we've learned from any and all theme park experiences we've covered in 15 years. You never know what's going to change. And that's why we like to go when things open, because I like to see things unencumbered. I like to see them before the cannons get turned off, is the term we use now, following Rise to the Resistance. Before the cannons get turned off, we'd like to see it. And so in a couple of months, it will be interesting to see what happens with all of this.
I mean, that's one of the things that I've said all along, too, which was one of the reasons I wanted to go see Batu when it first opened, was I want to see what happens while it lasts, exactly what you said. So, for me, it's always Tigger Bounce, because the Tigger Bounce in the queue at Winnie the Pooh was only there for like a hot minute before they were like, ooh, this is dangerous. Sometimes it's
Tigger's
because
ankle break spot, yeah.
Sometimes because it was a bad idea, sometimes because money, and sometimes because the guests ruin it. So, I mean...
Or just operationally it doesn't work, right? Like, let's be honest. It's not always that someone did something wrong.
Sure.
It's a different world when you open to the public. It's a different world once the guests are playing with it, and you see how a group of guests interact with something, right? So, like in the atrium of the Starcruiser, there are these low benches, and I don't know what they're going to do with them, because I've seen people nearly fall over them. The stormtroopers keep banging into them and leaving black marks on them. And it's not that it's a bad design. It's just once you let people and cast loose, then you start to notice things you couldn't have possibly anticipated, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just part of the game. That's part of themed entertainment.
So let's move on to the space feel, and I guess to me, I think about getting on, because again, haven't been to space, don't know if I mentioned that.
We skipped some of the arrival process, though. Do you want to skip all the rest of the arrival process?
Let's tie it into what we're talking about here.
Well, let me just say quickly. Here's what happens: you wait in the line. They bring you up. You scan your M band. Hopefully, it goes green. Still a magic band, so you never know. Then you go through, they have security, so they have metal detectors. You go through, they check your bag, you go through a metal detector. And then you watch the funniest pre-show video in the history of Disney parks, where the first time we were a small group, and I'm trying not to laugh as I film it, but the second time, I wish I had filmed it the second time because the crowd reaction was amazing. The crowd bursts into laughter the second time we watch it, because it is this moment where you understand what you've gotten yourself into. So what you're looking at there is that moment. So first they're like, if there is an important story moment that's going to happen, a false like emergency alarm will go off, and it will say like, please report to your muster stations, blah, blah, blah. But then they're like, well, now we need to tell you what happens in case of a real emergency. And everyone just starts laughing, because they're like, well, yeah, you have to tell us the difference between a fake and a real emergency, because this is such an immersive experience that there will be this big emergency moment. But it's important for us to know what's the fake emergency moment versus the real emergency moment. So I think it's one of the, it has to be said, so no knock on them for making the pre-show. The pre-show's perfect. But it is this moment where everyone kind of has to acknowledge the absurdity of the situation when that moment comes up, and everyone laughs at the pre-show, and it's very cute. But then anyway, after that, you get to the elevator or transport, and the transport takes you to the ship, and you are then aboard the Halcyon.
How similar is that to when I go to Space 220 and get some food?
They're very different. They're very different. I prefer the Space 221. Like the Space 221 is that done right, probably. But you can't do the same thing twice, right? Like I can't eat at Space 220 and then stay at the Starcruiser and it's the same thing, because then that doesn't feel different or special, right?
Right.
So it probably is more along the lines of an escape pod, like the escape pod that 3PO and R2-D2, escape in A New Hope. This has that one tiny window, right? So in this case, they did these two long windows that are in interesting spots. But the music's fun, and it's a cool moment, and that reveal when the door opens into the atrium is very cool.
So so when you're in the atrium and that reveal and you get to see it in person, you had already seen it before in pictures, etc., but it still was a special thing when you came in.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's the atrium of a spaceship. It's always going to be cool.
Well, and again, comparing it to a Disney cruise, I feel like you walk in and there's something pretty special about that when you walk in to the cruise.
Yeah, very similar feel. Yeah, very similar feel.
Okay, so then let's talk about the feel. Is that on a cruise, you get on a cruise, you feel the hum of the ship, you're in your cabin. Yeah. Sometimes if you have an inside cabin, you can start to feel claustrophobic. I know the first cruise I ever went on, which was not a Disney cruise, there was a TV channel that was called The Portal, and you would actually watch a TV channel. There was a camera on the outside, so you could get the feeling that you could actually see outside. I know Disney's kind of resolved that with most of their rooms having portals, or windows, if not balconies. When you get on, I know that there are no windows in the building because you can't see out, other than you're looking through into space. Was that weird? Did you get used to that? Did you, how did that feel? How did it feel being in quote-unquote space?
I never had a moment where I was disoriented by that, but I also live in the themed entertainment world, right? Like that's every day of my life. So I'm used to, think about most themed experiences. Like, yeah, eventually you exit, but when you're inside these places, there's usually not windows outside, right? If you go to Rise of the Resistance, once you get on that transport, you're inside for a while. So you're already in basically that same vibe. It's there. But the lighting in the Halcyons, it looks dark in a lot, and it is. Like the bridge is dark, the Jedi training or the lightsaber training pod is dark. Those spaces are dark. But the ship itself is very well lit and very bright and vibrant. And so there was no point, I never felt like I got to get out of here. I never felt that. I never was in the room was like, this is claustrophobic. Obviously the first cruise, we had the Galaxy class suite, which is bigger. So we had more space. But then the second cruise, we had the standard cabin. And at no point was I uncomfortable. The standard cabin looks smaller than it is in photos and video. I felt it was for the price. I know people are going to say for the price, and I get that. You're not necessarily just paying for the room, though. You're paying for a lot of different things. And so, yeah, see that looks. I'm feeling claustrophobic looking at that image you're sharing now, but I stayed in there and I never felt claustrophobic at any time. That's more accurate, right? See how much floor space there is there. There's a good amount, and that's more accurate, that angle. That angle speaks more truthfully, and so does that one, right? You're seeing a lot of floor space. There's a good amount of room. And the other thing is, those bunk beds are an optical illusion, the likes of which I have never seen. Because I laid down and I looked at it, even looking at it in person, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. And then I climbed up there and I laid flat and I'm like, how is this possible? This didn't look big enough. This didn't look big enough when I was standing in front of it, never mind in photos. But then I laid flat. If you're 6'3", 6'4", you're going to start to hit problems at the bunk bed. Anything less than that, you're going to be fine. But yeah, I think the bunk beds, when those first images were released, we laughed because, yeah, it seemed like, oh, someone's going to put their legs through the wall. But that did not turn out to be reality. What has happened is, what is amazing is, by far, this offering, more than any other in the history of Disney theme parks, was the worst publicized, best final result. So advertising and previews and all of those things that looked so bad, that started all this bad press, then followed by such positive reviews. There's never been that disconnect. Like, yeah, Avatar had a rough go of it until they started to show us stuff. But then once they started to show stuff for Avatar, we were like, oh, wow, that looks cool. And with this, it was the opposite, where I think it was, we posted the original story and then, you know, some schematics and other little things like that. And people were like, this sounds amazing. Oh, how cool. And then Disney started to actually show it. And people were like, oh, no, that doesn't look like what we were told it was going to be. There's a lot of white walls. And the characters don't look great. And this is starting to look bad. I don't know. The bunk bed looks real tiny. And it turns out a lot of that was someone should be fired because they just did not. They did the worst job promoting this, and it didn't help. The price point didn't help, right? Like the jump, when we initially announced the suggested price point that was in the documents we had, even then people were like, whoa, that's a lot, but people will pay. And then we got the actual pricing that this current regime had landed on, and then it was, that's a lot of money, and no one on earth is going to pay that. That's nonsense. There were two levels of nonsense money. One was, again, what we originally announced, which was still very high, but people felt in reach. And then now there's very high, but prices out probably a lot of people who would be willing to do this. And so but what I will say is, it doesn't feel like a ship. There's no hum. I didn't feel claustrophobic, but then again, I'm not a person that generally does. So I don't know. The space feel is you're inside in a themed environment. Imagine spending the day inside of, you know, the Star Destroyer on Rise of the Resistance. That's the best I can equate it to.
So how real do these windows look in person?
Not at all.
Really?
The windows are the. There are 3 or 4 things that did not meet expectations or did not succeed. The windows, the viewports are one of them. The viewport, the way they angled the glass or whatever, it gets real. If you want to put up that shot again, it might help illustrate for people. It gets kind of streaky when there's things more to the. You can see it there. You can see like that spaceship on the left side there is starting to streak a little bit. The planet is a little bit too. That happens a lot. There are some angles where that doesn't happen. There's a lot of glare. You got to kill a lot of lights in the room. The viewport is cool in that it does really change all the time throughout the voyage, and it aligns with the story, which is awesome. I love that. It's so cool. And in some cases, it'll warn you that story events are coming up before the play app or the ship even do. The progression of the story throughout the whole voyage is an incredible, amazing thing. And it's a shame that the viewport isn't always clear. It's definitely one of the shortcomings of the whole experience.
Well, I was looking. You were talking about floor space, and I was looking at this where you put all your stuff that you brought with you in these little things in the wall, yeah. And then it has this like table that pulls out. So it looks like it's very much built for efficiency, the way an actual ship would be, which is interesting to see. But at the same time, when when we are talking about this, I tried not to show you filling up your drink, but there you go. Now you've got your
fine.
Nice cup is filled.
The jig is up. I drink soda. Oh man.
Oh no. It's supposed to be space soda. So I guess my question.
They didn't have the space soda. They were sold out of the space Coke. We tried.
That's bad. And just a side note, I assume in space they have Coke. Yes.
Oh, the drink. Yeah, they have that.
Okay, yes. Wow, that was an interesting pause. Thanks. So one thing that I wanted to ask about this room was, you said that in person it looked a lot smaller than you expected. That's the one thing that I've been consistently afraid of, is that this was
the
already...
opposite. I felt it was bigger.
Okay, all right, good.
I thought in photos... I said in photos it looked smaller. Like, I agreed with people. Like, when we saw the photos of the rooms, I was like, oh, that looks small.
Yeah, okay.
The photos are deceiving. I think the photos are deceiving. They're more spacious than you might think. The bathroom's a little tight. The bedroom, not so much. The bathroom, I feel like they could have spatially figured that out a little better, and maybe I would have even sacrificed some space from the bedroom for that.
All right, so yeah, I misunderstood what you were saying, because I was like, I can't imagine it feeling any smaller than I already think it is. So that's great that it actually feels a little bit bigger when you're in there.
No, it feels it's a fair amount of space.
So let's, again, I'm sure we could talk about all this stuff for hours upon end, and thank you for allotting 6 hours tonight. I appreciate it. But there's the schedules. You kind of touched on this a little bit. Something that I didn't realize is that when you have the schedules, I thought it was one of those things like a cruise ship where they slide the Mickey, what's it, like the Mickey monitor or whatever underneath your door, and then you look and you see, all these are the things we're going to be doing on the cruise ship all day. And I know that that's in the data pad, but I assumed all that stuff was stuff that you would figure out and do while you were on the ship. You're saying that a lot of this stuff you had to make the decision ahead of time what things you were doing and when. Yes?
So those are just for your key offerings, right? Your key offerings are bridge ops and training, the lightsaber training, your transport time to Batu, and your pod back to Earth at the very end. Those are the things you have to schedule. And that being said, they can help you move things around if need be, really, on the ship. So we had lightsaber training directly after bridge ops on day one of the first cruise, and someone actually came and found us on the ship and was like, we just want to make sure, it's cutting a little close. So that's what it looks like when it's unscheduled. It's cutting a little close, so if you do miss, the lightsaber training, that's fine. We'll put you in another one, don't worry about it. So they'll make sure you get to see all your things, and if you do somehow miss one, just go to passenger services in the atrium, and they'll do their best to help you out with that.
Well, and again,
but the rest is on your own terms.
I can only compare this to the cruise ship experience that I had, that meals were scheduled. You had first shift or second shift, however that was going to work. If you were going to do some kind of excursion, that had a time on it, but the rest of it was really up to you. Do you feel like there was enough stuff on schedule for you to keep you busy and to make it so that both trips you had to do different stuff?
Yeah. No, it's a busy schedule, because we put out that schedule essentially for people to look at, and there you could sit at home and be like, oh, we're going to do this, and oh, we're going to build a model ship, and oh, we're going to do this sabacc tournament. You're going to do all those things. Well, this is out of date. CSL Star Show, that doesn't even exist anymore. But what's funny is then as you take on a role and do missions and get involved in the story, new things populate your schedule, and they overlap with a lot of those secondary cruise-centric activities, right? So we never got to do the model shipbuilding. We never got to do some of those other activities we talked about doing, because these big important story activities ended up being kind of in the way. So you do have to make those decisions, what's important to you, and how you want to further your story and all those things. But yeah, you can't do it all, and thankfully there is a little downtime, right? There are moments of downtime. There's nice little pockets on both days where you do have some time to yourself, and you can go check out some secondary offerings, like whether it's the Cantina Chronicles mixology thing, or we did play one round of Sector Set, which is space bingo, if you want to go to the dance lessons, whatever. But you do have to figure out, because you're going to want to spend some time in Sublight Lounge. You're going to want to do, you got to prioritize what's important to you. And for me, Sublight Lounge was a lot of priority, because Sublight Lounge ends up being, it's a lobby bar, but it's a really cool lobby bar with a tremendous staff and a lot of opportunities for some cool story moments and some one-on-one interaction with some characters as they come to your table and stuff. So yeah, like Sublight Lounge, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it at length, but it becomes this really, that and the atrium are the two most important places on the whole ship.
So then, we'll talk about that, the other stuff later. So basically, though, I need to get back to something that I must have missed a memo on. You said the CSL Star Show at Bestman doesn't exist anymore?
It doesn't. It doesn't. They changed names and descriptions and moved a lot of things around. That schedule that you just showed came down at one point and then went back up. And I forget what it's called now, but the fireworks thing does eventually happen. I don't want to ruin when, but it ends up being the crescendo of a major event aboard the Starcruiser. So it happens. It doesn't have that name. It eventually happens.
Okay.
But yeah. A lot of that schedule, it's wild. A lot of that schedule, I mean, you're talking 2 weeks out. A lot of that changed big time.
Really? 2 weeks out and it changed?
Yeah.
That seems weird. These seems
Well,
like
at least maybe it was just in name. I don't even know. I don't know.
Here's an interior. You were talking about the Sublight Lounge. This is the interior shot. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So there is this hollow sabacc table in the middle, which is a piece of history, a piece of the 275-year history of the Halcyon. It's a leftover from when the Hutts owned the vessel, and it was mostly a gambling ship. It was a casino ship for a while. And so while Sandrola Starline doesn't want to operate a gambling operation, they decided to keep one table, and there's no actual betting allowed at it, but they decided to keep one table as a memory of that moment in history of the ship.
So just like a regular Disney cruise, there's no gambling.
Correct.
Like not for cash money.
I think you've blown enough money at this point.
Well, okay. So with all of these things that you can pick and choose out of the list, though, and again thinking back to the only thing I know, which is an actual cruise, some of those things actually cost extra. Are all of those things on this list included in your trip?
All of the activities are included. Yes.
So even
the
model
things, yeah. Well, you have to buy the model, right? So the course itself, where they show you to build the model, is free. But the model is an item in the shop. So they built an activity around an item you can buy. There's a couple of moments like that, right? So autographs with Gaia. They sell a nice little $15 lithograph of her in the shop, which is what you can bring to that activity, and she stamps it with this thing. Model shipbuilding, same thing. But other than that, the rest there's no hidden fees. The things you pay extra for are alcoholic specialty beverages, non-alcoholic specialty beverages, which doesn't include coffee, by the way. It's just a couple of weird mixed non-alcoholic cocktails, essentially, and merchandise. Those are the things you can spend more money on the ship. And then also a photo session, if you want to do that photo session thing that they're offering.
Did you do the photo session?
We did not. We did not. It was booking up fast, and we had more than enough to do. There was so much to cover that we didn't do it. That wasn't I'm not, I didn't have these big custom outfits, and I'm not, I'm a big Star Wars guy, but I'm not a big I need photos of myself guy. I don't know. It's not my thing. I don't when we go to all these places, I never take photos. I take like 2 photos of me. I think there's 2 photos of me on this ship. There's like me on the bridge and me in the cabin, and that's about it. That's good enough for me.
Don't worry. Anytime you and I go anywhere together, I always take photos of you. So if you need some, let me know.
Most of them without my knowledge.
Exactly. That's the best kind. We'll call them candids. That's what we'll do. All right.
Wow.
So food and beverage. Again, going back to the cruise ship analogy, Pluto's Doghouse was open like almost all the time. There were drink stands all over the place. Is that something where they've got food available pretty much 20, and you could get room service and all that, and it was all included? Is that something they do here?
No room service.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting. I thought that was interesting. There's no room service. So the Crown of Corellia opens for breakfast very early at 7 a.m. And they do breakfast, then they do lunch. Then they close at 4, and dinner services begin at 5:30, I believe. And and so that's Crown of Corellia's operating day. They do offer the sweets and treats service on the second night for a little bit. But otherwise, that's Crown of Corellia. There is the passenger services desk becomes sort of a snack station for a period for several hours on both days. And Sublight Lounge will operate as a grab-and-go breakfast on day 2 and day 3, and then obviously as a actual bar from like 1 p.m. until 1 a.m. And then on the last day operates from 1 p.m. to 2 a.m. And so even if you want non-alcoholic stuff that's included, that's not added extra, you can go to Sublight and they'll pour you stuff. So you do have soft drinks basically available till 2 a.m. in that case, and if not, the only 24-hour thing is a water station in the atrium that has 3 handles. It has chilled sparkling, chilled flat, and room temperature flat water available, and there's a big pitcher in your room you can go fill. For the cost, there were little things I felt they could add which would have minimal economic impact on their profits. One thing I thought was they should have soda fountains that just are available. They should just be available 24 hours. That's number one. Number two, on Batu, you can come back to the docking area and get a bottle of water, and they give you the themed Dasani bottle, which is nice. But not the sodas. You couldn't put the Coke, the Sprite, and the Diet Coke out for us. We gave you $5,000. You can't just put that in the cooler. Come on. You want me to buy that next door? That's nonsense. So little things like that, I was like, you could easily just give us that, and it would not be the end of the world. But about food and beverage in general, I thought the buffets got slightly better on the second cruise. I think things were more their intended temperatures and preparations on the second cruise. So we are going to be revising those reviews a little bit based on that second experience. I'm probably going to do it tomorrow. Still, in total, there are a lot of things that I still think there are a lot of items that just kind of fall flat. Like presentation-wise, everything is gorgeous. Presentation-wise, everything looks right. Everything looks interesting and cool and is plated beautifully. And then in taste is where a lot of things fall flat. A lot of things are under-seasoned or just very bland. There's a lot of very bland and very under-seasoned items. And we're not even talking about just the buffet stuff, even at the 2 dinner services. Just a lot of blandness. And so the food, I think a lot of people came in expecting like Jico, expecting like a signature dining experience out of those 2 dinners. And it's not that. It kind of almost falls down to like a slightly elevated Whispering Canyon or slightly elevated Liberty Tree is how I would say. And even then, I think I'd rather eat at Liberty Tree in some cases. Like the pot roast is the same, whatever. You've given me another pot roast. Space pot roast, yum. There are some good things. The blue shrimp. The blue shrimp is good. It's one of the best things. They're these real big, they're giant, it's basically a shrimp cocktail. They're these massive shrimp. They give you a ton of them. And any of the food, you could always ask for more. And with cocktail sauce, and they're good. There's nothing wrong with them. They're quite enjoyable. The problem is just some of the others, like the whitefish is just there. I don't know. And so the other sad thing was, because it was my second crew, I think that we'd gotten to know everyone pretty well at that point, and the cast and crew is second to none. As far as Walt Disney World cast members, they are untouchable. Everyone there clearly really cares and is really trying, and everyone's just so sweet. And so on the second crew, knowing we were doing back-to-back, someone at Crown of Corellia was like, I would like to enhance your second dinner here because you've already done this before, so we want to make it a little special. And so they brought some enhancement stuff. And so they brought us a redfish with like a miso glaze thing. It was outrageous. It was fantastic. And all I could think about as I'm sitting there is guys, you should be fighting for this to replace the whitefish. If this replaces the whitefish in the next course, that just so greatly enhances this meal. And the other thing, then they put lobster and caviar on our final course, which was very nice. It was very sweet. But there were things like that where I was like, and I know there's always that budget fight, right? And I know, especially with all you can eat, we've seen it at Ohana, right? They made Ohana cut corners, and look at that backlash, to the point at which eventually they had to go back to what they were doing before. And I'm hoping Starcruiser has that moment where it is enough of a success to where somebody on that food and beverage team, and I know they know the shortcomings. Like, these are talented people, smart people that just did what they had to do. But hopefully they will have the leverage to push back and enhance the dinner services a little bit. Whether it is just switching that fish or little changes like that, I think they know what needs to happen. The problem is, will it be allowed to happen. And we've seen a lot of that with the flavor lab. I know they developed this whole flavor lab out behind Port Orleans where they develop all these things. The flavor lab is one of the worst things to happen at Disney dining. They put out formulaic garbage. So often every dessert is either in the same pie crust or it's these space gelatin things, and they're all formulaic and they all taste the same and they all blend together. And I wish, just let the locations do their own thing. Sebastian's Bistro, when they opened, had a menu that did not work. And it was because it came out of the flavor lab. And then the chefs at Sebastian's got to do things they wanted to do, and it became a hidden gem. So that's the same thing that needs to happen at Starcruiser, is the people that actually work in those kitchens need to be allowed to do what they can do. And I think they'll find their way eventually. For now, the food is not memorable. The food is very forgettable in the grand scheme of the experience.
How many times did you go to the tap for some green and blue milk?
Too many times, simply because Kayla kept yelling at me for social media content. So
okay, well,
I got her all the vertical video of me pouring milks and making grimacing faces at them. I will say, if you mix them together, it makes them both more palatable. I still don't want it, but it says a lot that now this I forget how much it even is in the parks now. Is it $7, $9? I don't know, how much is it now? I forgot, because I don't buy it because it's awful. But now here it is, readily available for everyone as much as they want. There was no one ever standing there getting it. I think if they want to know everything they need to know about the blue and green milk formulas, that summarizes it.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Chief for the $5 super chat, and the answer to your question is no. I
don't want to know what the question was.
You don't. You don't need to know the question. He was throwing $5 at me. So thank you for the super chat, though. We appreciate it, but the answer is no. The next thing is, I was looking at this this fountain and thinking that's cool to see, like, things other than Coke and Diet Coke and Sprite in their native.
Yeah, we got new ones. We got Arabish. The Coke Zero and. Yeah, they got some new ones.
Here's the problem I have is Powerade has a big old P on it, but if we're using Arabish, the P, that's not a thing. So who do I need to call about that? I feel like that's an oversight. It's just one letter P. Okay.
I assume Coke pushed back, yeah.
And also I have to ask you, did you put one of these in your bag as you were leaving?
No, I didn't. They're cool. The menus are cool.
So was there an item like the spork that people were shoving in their bags on their way out?
No, but I think everybody took the towels. So there were monogrammed towels with the Chandrilla logo, and I think Disney knows people are going to take them. So if they don't find them when they do housekeeping, when they redo your room the second time, they just don't put them out. So.
Do they charge you for them?
Feel free to take them. No. They know it's a thing that's going to walk away. They're aware that it's going to walk away. It's like Cruise Line. Cruise Line knows those towels are walking away. People always take them because they're Cruise Line towels. They're super cool, and it's just a thing you do. It's a guest service thing you deal with. It's like they're going to take it. Same as the H2O product case, the tin that's in the room. They know you're going to take that. They also sell it in the store, but they know you're going to take it. They're not going to charge you for it.
Is that this thing?
Larger things they probably, that's in the room. Huh. So everyone's taking them from the room.
Okay. Yeah. I picture Ross on Friends and, like, I'm going to get my money's worth and putting all the toilet paper and everything in his suitcase as he was leaving. No Friends reference.
People might do that.
So, and again, before we move on from food and beverage, one last thing is you were talking about the mixed drink options, and I'm looking at this thing. I assume you brought this home with you.
It is so cool. I mean, the base, the big metal base is really, look at that. It's super cool. And you get the vial with the super hot liquid in it, the Mustafar. What's fun about this also is where they get the vial from. There's this big container on the bar, and the top kind of pops open like Mr. Fusion in Back to the Future. It kind of opens, and the bartender will pull out tweezers and will tweeze. You'll see it behind him, the next one. That's the Hoth icebreaker. But underneath that, see behind him, see that gold? Almost looks kind of like a a vase, that gold vase behind him there.
Yes.
That's where it is. So the top pops, they grab tweezers and they pull that out as if it's very hot. And then once they feel it's cool enough, they hand you the little tube, which is a lot of fun. I love that souvenir glass, though. It's really neat.
One of the things we'll talk about near the end, and again, just a reminder, we've already had some questions in the chat, and I'm saving them. And if you guys have other questions, let us know, because we'll hit Tom up with them. But is like, you know, we haven't really talked about it, but the things that were meant for the land that didn't make it into the land that made it onto the ship, and there are many, and that could be a huge conversation that we have. But do you think any of these drinks were originally designed for Ogas and then they backed out of them, or is this all unique for the ship?
I think these are new. I think these are new creations. These are new creations. I cannot, as much as I've been tough on food and beverage, I cannot talk about Sublight Lounge enough. The cast in there has such a good time, and they make the guests have such a good time. And the drinks, you will inevitably find one or two things on that drink menu you really like. You know, everyone has very distinct taste in drinks, so if you like really sweet stuff, you're going to like that really sweet stuff and not a lot of the other stuff. If you don't like sweet stuff, you're not going to like the hot icebreaker and some of the other things, but you are going to probably love. They make a mean Manhattan, they make a nice old-fashioned, and they can make anything you want there. But then the snack food in there is actually particularly good. The chips with the dip were really good. I like the smoked cheese thing a lot. Even the green beans, or the green beans were good. The what am I forgetting from that menu? The fish rolls were really good. It's a really good menu, so I cannot stress spending some time in Sublight Lounge, especially again because characters will mingle in there, and the cast is great, and there's the sabacc table, and it's just it's so much better than Oga's. Oga's is such an unpleasant experience constantly because it's too busy, the cast is overwhelmed, it just doesn't feel right. And this feels more like an actual Star Wars cantina than Oga's ever has and probably ever will.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we have another super chat for $4.99 from Tim, who says, guess thoughts on how many years till the storyline changes on the cruise to appeal to repeat customers. I mean, you know, that was something I was thinking about getting into with you know, talking about other offerings. But what do you think while we're here?
I don't know. It really depends how quickly it peters out, right? Like we have to find out how long is it sustainable. But I mean, they absolutely know. Like it's been talked about internally already. They know there will need to be a timeline or a theme change at some point in time. And in fact, I think in the original conversations, there was even talk that maybe, I don't think this is going to happen now. I think they have figured something out. And I think for the next several decades, it will remain Star Wars. But I think there was talk at other points of it. Maybe, you know, when they redo it, it wouldn't even be Star Wars next. It'd be something else. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say 5 to 10 years. Makes sense to me, but maybe it's sooner or maybe it's later. Like maybe this, you know, I think you probably have to make story changes within 5 years, I think. We'll see. And I'm sure they will market the hell out of it. I'm sure it'll be like this last chance to experience a story. But then again, how do you change it with Batu, right? Batu would have to change also.
Maybe.
But you do have a ship with 275 years of history.
Sure.
And, you know, you could go back to the original trilogy and maybe send the whole land back to the original trilogy, and that'd be great.
Yes.
People
Call
would
somebody
like
about that. Yeah. All right, so you and I share an affinity/sickness for merchandise, and I can't imagine that it was safe for you to be on this cruise ship with this gift shop and all of the supplies that they have in here, especially looking at this picture right here. Wait a minute. What is that?
This is SK620. This is the little wind-up one. I have the big one over there. We have to do an unboxing later for YouTube, but I can wind him up and let him go. He has this. He has a restraining bolt on, and by that I mean original packaging, so I can't roll him around yet. It wasn't that much merchandise. Like it's a good amount of merchandise, but I've been to openings of things. I've been to openings of hotels. I think Riviera had more merchandise for its hotel actually. Yeah, so like a lot of that's costume clothing, right? So I didn't buy any female costume clothing. I actually restrained myself. I didn't buy any of the jewelry, even though I think the jewelry is amazing. I bought a couple costume pieces for me to wear, but I mean, the merchandise they did make is great. I love that really, again, like Galaxy's Edge, they really stuck to their guns, and all the merchandise on the ship is
in story,
as if it would be sold on a space cruise line within the Star Wars universe, right?
yeah.
So everything is that Chandrilla Starline logo and branding, and it's like you're buying, and it mentions the Halcyon the same way like when you went on Disney Cruise Line, you know, you go on the Dream and there's Dream merchandise. You go on the Fantasy, there's Fantasy merchandise. I love that. And then the way they got around not having regular, I'm actually wearing the t-shirt, not that you can see it, but the way they got around selling Star Wars branded merchandise was at the port. When you go back, they lift up this little door, and there's a shop there for when you leave that has all of the not in story merchandise that says Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser, which is a great line of stuff also, including like a magic band and shirt and magnet and pins and lots of really good stuff. So it's not an overwhelming amount of stuff. It is enough. I feel like there is enough merchandise and there's something for everyone. And it all feels so special because it is only available to people that go to this thing. So if it's kind of like going to Club 33. Like it's one of those things where you see people in the parks wearing Club 33 hat or with a Chandrilla Starline, you know, sweatshirt or something. It's going to be like, oh, they went to the thing. So I think it's
There are
fun.
those
It's
people
cool.
that have lots of money.
They have money.
Yes, exactly. So you can't like roll up to the Keystone Closiers and get some of this merchandise, huh? Not yet.
No, and I don't think you ever will. I know they buckled for Galaxy's Edge, which is sad, but I am fairly certain they won't buckle on Galactic Starcruiser because they can't, because the people will complain. People will inevitably complain.
There's nothing like going to D23 Expo, standing in line for 4 hours at Mickey's of Glendale, only to find out that they sell the same thing later at Epcot. I mean, I get it. I mean, yeah, absolutely. So you bought one of everything so that it could be unboxed. Is that correct, or not really?
Just about. Again, I didn't buy the female clothing. I didn't buy the jewelry.
Gotcha.
Everything else. I have everything.
Okay. So what did you buy for me? Nope. Let's let it be a secret. It's fine. Don't say it now.
I'm waiting to take you for your first time. I'll let you shop. The fun is not. I don't like when people bring me back stuff. It's not as exciting. There is no excitement like grabbing the thing off the shelf and holding it, and you wait and you put it on the counter, and then you pay for it, and then you take your bag, and I love that feeling. That's my favorite feeling in the world. It's undoubtedly my favorite feeling. I love it. I love that excitement, especially first day. First day, there's nothing like just grabbing all the stuff off the shelf and walking up, and it's very exciting.
So let me ask this question related to merchandise. For some reason, this real lightsaber, I had the thought that maybe it would be something, you know, a lot of people said, oh, maybe they'll replace that at Savi's, and I was like, nah, they're not going to do that. Savi's is doing just fine.
People keep saying this, and I'm like, why would you think they would sell this thing?
Right,
Like,
well, but they were like, oh, it would be at Savi's.
The thing is so volatile that the like entertainers afraid to handle it, and everyone thinks they're going to sell this to you. The entertainers like, I better put this down and grab the other one. All right.
So, but when it was shown to us originally by our good friend Josh Tomorrow, he showed it and said, and it's real, and everybody was like, okay, they almost made this the showcase for the Starcruiser to go up. This is going to be on the Starcruiser, and I thought it would be something you would use in your training session. Doesn't look like you use it in training session.
Well, of all the stuff on the Starcruiser, it was the one thing that was portable, right? It was the one thing you could take places. There are other really cool show elements on the Starcruiser and new things they've never done before. There are several, I'm not going to spoil them. There are several new technologies, new projection stuff, and other really cool, fun things that move and interact that are great and wonderful. And the lightsaber, I think, just happened to be something they could show the world that would gain so much publicity, right? Star Wars fans of all kinds would be like, oh man, someone finally made an extending lightsaber. That's the attention getter, right? And again, you don't want to give up too much of the story, right? They did a good job not giving up a lot of the story. And the lightsaber doesn't give up any story. So I think it was the right move.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. So, but I guess for me, I thought there would be more of it in use, and so just to see it being used by the actor for just that one thing, and then put down because apparently it doesn't retract the way it's supposed to.
No.
Okay.
It's not made to retract fast. It's only made to come out fast. That's what they could do. So the current thing, we're going to publish this tomorrow anyway, but we have been told that what you see currently is not the final iteration. So this whole thing where she puts it down and picks it up, that's not the final. That's not the final product. They're working on it. It wasn't ready in time. What they want to do to make that transition a little cleaner.
So jump into WDWNT.com tomorrow to get the full story.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's talk about Batu, because this one to me was a little bit weird. It seems necessary. It seems obvious that you would take a day excursion to Batu, but it's just
it's
like
important to the story,
kind of like when they opened up the Hogwarts Express at Universal, and I was like, how are they going to pull that off? Because you've got to go to both parks, and this seems a little bit weird. I feel like if it was somebody who was very claustrophobic and they got over to Batu, they may take that opportunity to run away. I don't know. It's an interesting thing to let you loose in the park. Do you ever feel the need to like stroll down and hit Tower of Terror while you're in there, or is it just you stay in the land?
No. Let me say this. I think the strongest thing I can say for the entire project is the immersion is beyond anything that has ever been done. And I say that because when we got off at Batu, I didn't feel like I was at Hollywood Studios. I felt like I was on Batu. So much so that when we finally left the Starcruiser at the end of the trip and drove past the Hollywood Studios parking lot, I had this moment of disconnect where I was like, I did not feel like I've been at Disney World for 5 days. I felt like I was somewhere else. Even though I went into a Disney World park, I didn't feel like I was at Disney World. There was this disconnect where I did feel like I went somewhere far away. And so seeing Disney World as I drove home didn't register. It was like, how could that be? This thing doesn't feel like it's at Disney World. So kudos to them, or even for someone that basically lives here on Disney property. It didn't feel like you were on Disney property. And a big part of that is we never left Batu. So you can, and I don't think you want to waste time at Hollywood Studios. I really don't think so. So I say you don't leave. Don't ruin that immersion. I think it feels right to just stay in Batu and do what you're supposed to do there and then go back to the ship. I don't think anyone should go venture out.
So one of the things that we looked at early on with WDWNT was the idea that there was some sort of a bus system. There was actually schematics of a bus system that would take you over there. What we ended up with, and I know you did some jokes on News Tonight about other ways to get over to the land that were proposed. But the box truck that ended up, when you say, hey, y'all, we're taking you on the $6,000 trip, and to get you from here to the land, we're going to put you in a box truck, it certainly sounds pretty bad when you put it that way. But I think your experience with this was pretty good. No, it wasn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I'm looking at
the box truck is another one. So thematically they did a good job, right? So thematically there's nothing wrong with it. The problem is, number one, the experience inside the truck is pretty lackluster. There's not a lot of this is in motion, even screen-wise. There's not a whole lot going on. There's a droid talking to you as if he's piloting, but you can't see him, and I'm like, you have so many rides at Hollywood Studios where you see the pilot. Look at all these great blurry photos someone took. It's wonderful. I'm going to replace those. And so my problem was it's just this very static, tight interior that's not that interesting. So you took away the screen. So when it was going to be a bus, there were screens that showed you video. There was a animatronic Rex-style droid. Those things existed, and then you took those away. And what you've been left with is pretty bad. And obviously it feels like you're in a box truck, which doesn't feel like a spaceship. And why do I know what a spaceship feels like? Well, because you put me on Star Tours, you put me on the Resistance transport, you made me fly the Millennium Falcon. You've established to me what space travel feels like. The box truck feels like a box truck. Like, I feel the suspension of the box truck. as we're in this. I couldn't stop laughing. I was just laughing the whole time. The whole time we took a wide turn at one point. It just always felt like a box truck. And so, while in story it works fine, it's like the window. It's one of those few weak points that just didn't meet expectations. It's odd. And then the second time we actually had to wait a while. Like there was a decent queue to get on a transport to Batu, which is, you know, if I was walking, I would have been there faster. So
yeah. So here's a look at the bus, the original bus, intergalactic transport that they had, and I think we were at that time going, hey, you know, again, multi-$1,000 experience. They're going to put you on a bus, but at least with this one, there was more of a feeling of.
Well, I mean, that looks pretty correct right there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how close the art was. Yeah.
For that one, but then
I guess that's what they released later. Not
there was supposed to be this female Rex droid.
Well, yeah, there's a picture. It's a guy, by the way. It ended up being a guy. Or maybe it's not. It's definitely voiced by a guy. So that's a great question if it even remained a female.
Is this the picture right here that you're talking about?
Yeah, there it is. So that's it. That tells you who the pilot is. You don't get to see the pilot, but it's, you know.
Yeah.
The BTC, the Batu Transport Company.
Yeah.
All right.
So
but Batu is Batu. It's nice that you get to ride Rise, and it's nice that Falcon has these little added singular lines of dialogue that tie into you being a Halcyon passenger. But other than that, you are doing that same old play app garbage. You're doing connect the dots and, you know, drop the puzzle pieces in and the tuning thing and those things. So you have to complete these missions to further the story, but they are, again, those things that feel like they're from a 99-cent app. A piece of dust just fell from our ceiling. That's nice. There are these things that feel like they're from a 99-cent game app. Yeah, that's the atrium. Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway.
Well, and that's something
so
you and I.
The play app's kind of a weak point.
You and I talked about the fact that gamification was something that was designed for the, you know, originally pitched for the land that isn't really a thing. That you would go into Ogas and they would go, oh, hey, aren't you the guy that crashed the Millennium Falcon, et cetera, et cetera. So that sort of exists here now, or is it still not really what it needs to be?
Sort of. Like, they don't know how rough you were on the Falcon, but obviously they you know, send you on the mission to get the coaxium. And that is, the coaxium ends up being a really important plot point. So, yeah, I mean, Falcon feels way more important now than it did just in the land, because now you know why the coaxium was important.
So I didn't, before we move on from here, I didn't leave a place to talk about entertainment and the story itself, and I know that a lot of that is spoilers.
Which is the star of the whole thing. Yeah.
Right, that's the spoilers of it.
Yeah.
Just tell me how you felt about what you were given, and a caveat to that is, if you watched any of the influencer stuff the week before, was there anything they did for them that they didn't do for everyone else? Because I know that happens with press a lot. We're going to fly this thing over the castle, but only once. So what were your impressions, and did they leave out anything?
No, the big difference for press, and even First Cruise still had it, was way more staffing. Not entertainment. Entertainment's still at the same level, but just staff on the cruise in general. So I don't believe that they were given any extra entertainment. I don't believe that. I think it's remained consistent. So thankfully they didn't alter the experience really for them. No, entertainment's very consistent.
Okay. Well, we won't talk about that. Let's talk about when it was all said and done and you had to say goodbye. I know, for me, again, the cruise ship.
It's only the most important part of the whole thing we're just not going to talk about. Now, I'm sure people have questions. When we get to the questions, I'm sure there'll be a ton of
we can do that. But again, I feel like it is the most important part, but it's also the biggest spoiler to me of the whole thing, because I've tried not to see things. But the stuff I've seen with Ray and
Rob's just worried I'm going to ruin this for him,
No, I just mean, again, for everybody else. So one of the things we're going to talk about, and Ride Jump Fly, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. What happens if you miss the last shuttle back? When you're returning, When you return on the Disney Cruise Line, you got to go through customs, and it's this whole thing. And I feel the very first time I did it, I felt like we had just gone on this luxury experience, and now we were like, it was like we were on Ellis Island all of a sudden because of the lines, and we were in the basement picking up our luggage, and the whole thing. But what was it like on the return? You mentioned the gift shop. You had a schedule to get out. You got breakfast the last morning. Tell me a little bit about the return.
They have breakfast. Yeah, they have grab and go or the buffet one, and even if you have a scheduled time, you just go to any time before 10 o'clock. You can go to the transport and leave, and they'll check you out. It's really painless. They'll have your bags ready, and in many cases, that'll prompt them to have your car ready, and they will put the bags in your car. When we were done shopping at the store, I was like, "Can we get the bags?" They're like, "Sir, your bags are in your car already, ready to go." And then someone handed me my keys, and were like, "You're all set," and we drove off, and I cried for hours.
Did you really?
No, I was sad though. I was very. There was like this day of depression. It was like I had just spent 4 or 5 days in one of the most amazing things Disney has done in years. Definitely the best thing they've done since Pandora, undoubtedly. And it was I don't know. It just reminded me so much of why I love this art form and I love Disney World. All of those things it all came back to me during this. But then there was the harsh reality of, oh yeah, the Disney World of today is not great, and that's what I'm stuck with until the next time I come onto this ship.
Well, let's move on to some questions. And again, if you were in chat with us live, please drop in questions. I've grabbed a couple here that were early on, and one of them is a great question. Is so for special needs, if you're hearing impaired, if you're disabled, if you're vision impaired, is it wheelchair? Are the wheelchair? Are there ramps? Are there space ECVs, Tom? No, I'm just kidding.
There are space ECVs, and there are places to park space ECVs. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Everything else though?
Yeah. So funny enough, we had two. There was a family with two sons who were both visually impaired, and I think they had the most wonderful time. Every time I saw them, they just seemed to be having the best time. And what was really I don't really get into these emotional moments very often, but I'm going to tell this story. We did the lightsaber training with them. They were in our group. And the end of the lightsaber training, spoiler alert, a little bit of a spoiler here. The last phase of the lightsaber training is Yoda saying, you can use the Force, you can feel where the blast is going to be. And so they no longer give you that light ahead of the blast to tell you where it's going to go. So you don't know where it's going. You have to sense where it's going to be. And so, like the Saja, the lightsaber training people asked the crowd, like, what is Yoda trying to say? And one of the visually impaired boys said, we have to sense where the blast is going to be. And it's this serendipitous moment of these are two kids that are actually visually impaired. And this is how Star Wars applies to them, right? Star Wars has a visually impaired character in Rogue One he's an impressive character. Even with this, thing he's had to live with, he's able to use the Force and is this really strong character. And then here are these two boys wielding a lightsaber who are visually impaired, who have this incredible moment where Yoda's like, it's not about seeing, you can feel where the blast is going to be. And I was so taken aback by the moment. I was like, this is such a serendipitous, beautiful moment in themed entertainment where these kind of things happen. It was really heartwarming and very cute and very charming, and I love that. So I will say this: like they accommodating as Disney is anytime and anywhere. They're always very accommodating of anyone with any sort of issue.
Dietary needs as well.
Whatever issues, dietary needs, visual impairment, mobility, hearing, whatever it may be. It's going to be an incredible experience.
So this question was about, what if I have 5 people in my family? This looks like you're not allowed to have 5 people in your family. It looks like you're only allowed to have 4.
You are. No, you are, because we stayed in the 5th sleeper room. So if you in particular want to check it out, I think this one kind of got lost in the shuffle because it was from the second cruise. We do have the tour of the 5-sleeper standard cabin. So it has 2 people can sleep on the bed, another 2 in the bunk beds, and then there is a pull-down bed directly below the television. Yes. So that is specifically a room that sleeps 5. So there are 2 room types that sleep 4, standard cabin and galaxy suite, both sleep 4. There is that room, which sleeps 5, and then there is the captain suite, of which there are 2, which sleep 8.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's another question. How was the climate simulator?
Climate simulator is essentially an outdoor patio. So whatever the weather is on Batu or, Orlando, Florida, it will be there.
And then people were talking about smoking. Like, I assume, do you just go cold turkey for 2 days?
No. Go to the passenger services desk and they will arrange a special transport for you back to Chandrila. And you can go smoke on Chandrila, and then you take the transport back to the ship wherever in the galaxy it may be.
And you can do that as many times as you need to?
Yeah, sure. Yep. I don't know for what you paid if you really want to go stand at that terminal, that many times, but it's available if you need it.
Which is a better experience, being a rebel or being the First Order? This was a question out of the queue.
It is always more fun to be a bad guy. We had so much fun as First Order. Lieutenant Croy, the individual that played, both of them were great. But the first Lieutenant Croy, I think, really felt like out of a movie where second Lieutenant Croy is a former Adventurers Club actor, so I'm partial to that. I love that there were Adventurers Club people on our second one, and I gravitated towards them because I love them. But they're more just purely comedic, where the first Lieutenant Croy is more movie accurate, where he can be funny, but at the same time he's really, he's a space Nazi, and it is like right out of the film, and it's wonderful, and you really get swept up in it if you watch those videos of us either sabotaging the Halcyon or what we did on the bridge with him. It gets people pumped, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and it's fun. It's good to be bad, as the WDWNT song says. It's good to be bad. Resistance, the good guys are boring, right? But I still had a good time doing the good guy stuff. The good guy stuff was still cool. My preference, though, First Order.
We have a couple super chats basically here to stroke your ego. Are you ready for this?
Oh, boy.
Fifth Rider says, kudos to Tom's integrity. He said it looked bad when it looked bad. He said it looked good when he went in person and thought it was good. Every other news outlet stuck to their original opinions. Thank you. So, $25 super chat. So thanks for that. We appreciate it.
Can't be honest if you're not honest.
And that was the big thing, too, right, is all these people who were influencers got to go for free, and there's no way they would go, you know what, it wasn't really worth it. That's a thing. So,
No,
I think
we've seen it with so many other things, right? And then, of course, Scott Gustin on Twitter, who's such a hack. What a hack. A failed journalist who then jumps into the, I don't care. He's attention monger. Because then once we were positive, he's like, well, it looks like everybody was positive, so it looks like the shills didn't shill, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, they're going to be positive either way, but let's go back to coverage of Harmonious and Enchantment and all of those things, or things, Rivers of Light, things that clearly the public did not love, by the way, that all these positive reviews came out from people that went to media events. But let's pretend that the media is always fair and balanced, Scott. Let's live in that fantasy world, shall we? Riviera is a beautiful hotel. Oh, it's gorgeous. What a gorgeous resort.
You know what, that room, the studio that they have at Riviera is just, to me, like, it's so, like, why does this room exist? It's so small and cramped and crowded.
You want to feel actually claustrophobic, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I thought we were going to get with these rooms. So
the closet, the closet at Riviera, no, the cabin on the Starcruiser certainly trumps the Riviera closet suite.
The Riviera room where the bathroom is bigger than the rest of the room. Yes, that one.
The bathroom is bigger than the living room. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. BC Fan, $5. Thank you for doing this, Tom. Have you met anyone on your trips who expressed disappointment or regret overall, and what reasons did they give?
No, and I talked to a lot of people. Who knew who I was, a lot of people who didn't know who I was, and everyone even halfway through was like, nah, this is cool, this is great. I love it. Everyone, you know, because we're human beings. Certainly, people had little things that they didn't like, and I have a short list of things I would change, but that doesn't overall change the fact that it still was amazing, right? And that's what I think we have to realize is so often people are like WDWNT is so negative. No, we're just very analytical. Like, this is the thing we cover, and we dissect it, and it's fun to dissect something you love, an art form you love. And that's what we do. And if we were positive all the time, then it wouldn't resonate when something was great. You wouldn't feel, people out there wouldn't feel the need to do things until WDWNT says they're worth doing. Because you know when we say it's worth doing, it is absolutely a thing you need to put everything down and go do. So when we tell you to eat at Sanaa and go to Jico and Flying Fish and stay at Animal Kingdom Lodge, you know, without a doubt, there is no way those things are going to disappoint you. And that's why Starcruiser has a glowing review, because I know there is no way you're going to go on that ship and not be impressed, because I was impressed.
Very cool. Disney Princess 94, did they give out gratuity envelopes like they do on the cruise line?
No, they don't exist. Nope.
Okay.
No, you don't have, so in some cases you have less interaction like on the cruise, so you don't have a stateroom attendant. There is no dedicated stateroom attendant, so there are less opportunities for that sort of thing also.
Well, that's a good question, though. Did they come in and refresh any? You said they refreshed like during the day because they would.
Oh, they changed the beds and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
No, they clean the room. They tie up your any wires you have hanging around. They tie them up. All that stuff. No, it is a great housekeeping service. They do a good job. So it's full and beyond Disney World housekeeping services, even pre-pandemic. Yeah.
Here's a costuming question. What about costumes and armor? What if I wore my Imperial Remnant costume? Like, could you walk in dressed as Boba Fett and, like, full mask and everything?
No one's wearing masks. You can't do masks.
Okay.
But people wore full Mandalorian armor. People wore, you know, clone trooper suits and carried the helmet under their arm. People wore Imperial, you know, lieutenant outfits and all that stuff. And it's, I would say, more so than anything you do in the Play app, these are things that will affect your character interactions, because the First Order guy was always, you know, if you wore an Imperial outfit, he would be like, ah, yes, you serviceman, you once served under the Empire, we're happy to have you out of retirement, fun stuff like that. And the same thing where the good guy characters would be like, can I trust you? Like, I don't know. And so I would wear those things because you get fun reactions and good attention, and it's good stuff. You just can't put the helmet on, but you won't want to have the helmet on. The helmet's going to encumber some fun, so.
Have you ever removed your helmet? Has anyone else ever removed your helmet? So when you go
That's a personal question, Rob, and I'll ask you to stay out of my affairs.
Maybe. So the other thing is that with costuming that I have a question about is that when we first opened up Galaxy's Edge, the rule was you couldn't actually put on a costume and go in, even though they sold costumes in Batu, you couldn't wear it.
Yeah.
Well, how does that rule change if you're coming in from the Starcruiser?
I guess it does, because people wore their stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
That being said, I didn't see people wear armor and stuff to Batu, so.
Gotcha.
Probably a good time not to. You're just going to a park. Dress down a bit for Batu. Dress down for Batu. It's too hot.
Kevin Frazier says, thank you so much for providing, super chat, by the way. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you for providing perspective on experience, excellent coverage, excellent in all caps. So he means
Very
it.
sweet.
Can you talk about how the room looks with all the lights off and the space view? That's a good question. Like, does the space view, can you close that window?
It's very bright. It's very bright. You can close it, yeah. You can close it. I wanted to keep it open at night because we're staying in space. It's cool. Same way we were on the cruise when we had the balcony in the window. I wanted to leave it open. It's cool to see the moon on the sea at night. Like, it's awesome. And so we kept it on, but the lights around the perimeter of the window stay on. And so Jason complained. He's like, I got to sleep with this light. I was like, Jason, yes, we're looking at space tonight. Get over it. And so yeah, it's really bright. It's really very bright.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. It does. I have a picture. I got to send it in to Katie, actually. I took a picture after someone asked me this. I did shut all the other lights in the room and just leave that on and took a picture, and you'll see it's quite bright.
Cool. So Rosita our Super Chat Queen, $50 from Rosita. Thank you so much, Rosita. So, Tom, like, did they offer a discount for the next time you come back, like the other resorts? And thank you for doing this out of your own pocket.
No, they don't. No, there is no discount. In fact, I think I'm paying more for the third one. So,
wow.
I'll spoil this here. The reason we have a third one is there is another room type. There is another room type. So we have 3 room tours up on YouTube already and on the site. That's standard cabin, 5th sleeper, Galaxy class suite. Rob, what does that leave? What's left, Rob?
Captain's quarters?
It does leave the captain's quarters, doesn't it? So
oh, that's the one you're taking me on. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Tom. You guys heard it here first. Tom, thank you. That's beautiful. I no wonder you waited. You wanted to take me to the captain's quarters. Thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate it. Wow. This is too kind. I don't even know what to say. Oh my gosh. I feel so pretty. Why is he being quiet? Anyway. So somebody named Eric Morton says, did you ever come back to your room only to find stormtroopers had burned it down and killed your family members?
No.
Okay.
That happened when I returned home to Celebration. I found that everything had been burned down. Yeah.
Serious question. Serious is a Wreck-It Ralph says super chat. So thank you for the super chat, Tom. Love your balance appraisal. Also, you're very clear very clearly have not stated do not put yourself in debt for this, but is it an amazing experience? So that was actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you too in general, and I think a lot of people have said, and I think we had a comment earlier, it might have been from Dawn, that said, was it worth it? I think Neko had asked, like, is the value there? And obviously is something that we're all asking ourselves. And then also I know that there's an anticipation there might be deals later.
Yeah, so we talk about this a lot in the honest review that's here on YouTube, the hour long. If you haven't watched that, there's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about here that's in there, and I give a very lengthy, is it worth it review at the end of that. In short, what I will tell you here is no one should go into debt to go to a themed experience. It's not a smart idea, so don't do it. Is it worth it? If you have that money to burn, and you want to have a memory that will last a lifetime, then yeah, then you should go. If this means something to you and you can afford, and I mean actually afford it, not with a loan, not with a credit card, but actually afford it, you should go do it, because it is, if you love either Star Wars or Disney Parks Entertainment or a live theater person, any one of those 3 things, you're gonna love this. It is, if you were an Adventurers Club person, it is a 40-hour Adventurers Club in space. If you are a Star Wars person, you get to really feel like you are in Star Wars. And I know it's new trilogy, I know that, but they did a much better job than Batu did of capturing, I feel like, all the timelines for everyone. Way less reliance on the cartoon series and the comic books, and just more really a focus on mainline movie stuff. And while these characters are not movie characters, I mean, obviously movie characters come in at some point, but even though these aren't movie characters, they feel like they are, and they feel like callbacks to a lot of classic characters. So it does really feel like Star Wars. I know it's one thing Nick brought up. Like someone asked Nick this week, they're like, do you want to go? He's like, I don't know if I want to go. He's like, it doesn't look like Star Wars to me. And the first thing I told him when I talked to him off the ship was, it does feel like Star Wars. It actually does. More so than a lot of Batu does. So
you, me, really, Nick, captain's quarters. Yes. Sorry.
Sure.
Super chat from Owen. Thank you, Owen, for the super chat $4.99. How is the Galaxy class suite? It looks very nice, but the configuration is strange. Is it good for a family of 4?
Oh, for family of 4, absolutely, yeah. That's what it sleeps. So you'll have lots of space. Someone has to go sleep alone out in the other room, although someone could sleep on the couch if they wanted. But there is just one pull-down bed in the other room, the living room, and then the other room, the bedroom, has you know, the queen bed and then the one pull down. But yeah.
Somebody said no pool sucks, which I mean,
you wouldn't have time.
Yeah, I would think the same thing.
There would be no time.
Yeah. One said, here's
You're
one.
in Orlando. You can have your choice of any water park and pool before and after this cruise. In fact, I would suggest getting a lot of rest before and after. So a relaxing pool day or water park day would be a great thing to do the day before or the day, even the day you get off of this. If you want to just go straight to the water park and lay in the sun, that'd be great.
See, to me, that's the challenge, though, is that as somebody who doesn't live there, doesn't have a lot of vacation time, and when you go and you take, you know, hey, this is the vacation, you know, where to spend it is you know, it's as much about the value of your time as it is the value of your money. So when you're going down, if you're not the person who lives down the street from Epcot or lives in Celebration and you can't get there all the time, you want to go do those things and see Ratatouille for the first time, despite what you would say, or you want to try Cosmic Rewind, or, you know, so you want to take those times. And so to me, that's really the other thing of, is it worth it? Is it worth taking that limited, special, precious amount of time you have for a vacation and dedicating 2 days out of it? But I guess that goes back to your "are you the person" situation. And
if those things apply to you, this is so much cooler and so much better and so much more fun than most things currently at Disney World. I would pick this over a day at any of the parks in their current form. Wow. It's so much more enjoyable also too. It's not overcrowded. It's not, you know, it's temperature controlled in most cases. It's a comfortable, fun time. And again, the cast service is kind of what Disney World used to be. It's so attentive and so caring. It's great. It's really, really wonderful.
Kyle Davis had $1.99 to blow and says, "Tom, just how good is Phil Collins? Am I right?" So thank you for the super chat.
I mean,
appreciate
he didn't need to go that hard for Tarzan, but he
did that for us. So. He did that for us.
He did that for us, yeah.
Exactly. Sean says, would it be, and super chat, $10. Thank you for that, Sean. Would it be frowned upon if I were to go ride Slinky Dog after getting dropped off in Batu? Do you have free run of the park, or are you confined to Galaxy's Edge? And I think you talked on that a little bit before, that you can really go anywhere you want to, but your suggestion would be
you have free run. My suggestion is for the immersion, don't. And also, I'm going to shun you if you ride Slinky Dog. So keep that in mind. I think it feels best not to, but if you really feel like that's a need, if you're like, Slinky Dog, I love this crappy coaster, I really need to go over there and have a cheap thrill, you know, or you want to go eat at Woody's Lunchbox, so be it.
Who wouldn't? I'll give money.
I want the two-night Toy Story immersive hotel. Let's go.
Okay, well, that brings up a question that I had, which also runs into this question. So this one says, I'll give them my money if they do an original trilogy version of the cruiser. Will they do that at some point? Which you kind of touched on. You think maybe after 5 years they may try
10 years. 10 years, yeah.
So here's my question, though, is that this is experimental. We knew that all the way through. This could have gone super cheesy or super cool, and it sounds like it went pretty cool. I think a lot of us were like, oh, this, you know, at some points we were like, this looks amazing, life-changing, and at some points we were like, this looks like medieval times. So the fact that you stepped off and you were like, hey, I'm putting my reputation here to say I had a good time. With that said, do you think that there will be, like, do you think all of a sudden they're going to give a green light to have these in other places in Disney, that they'll be doing more Star Wars, that they'll do other IP, and also the one that comes up all the time is, do you think Universal will do something with Harry Potter?
I don't think something will immediately get greenlit. I don't think anything is far enough along. I think it'll take a little time. I think Anaheim's going to end up with something in that expansion, whether it's the other, you know, whether it's another Galactic Starcruiser or it is a Marvel one or whatever. It's inevitable they will do this again. It's a success and it's working. I think it's inevitable they will do it again. I mean, the one I want to see, the one that immediately came to mind, you know, was not Harry Potter. What came to mind for me was Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And what if you were a guest at the Hollywood Tower Hotel during the time at which the lightning struck, and you have to like solve the mystery, and how you know, like we are all batting an eye at $6,000 for Star Wars, but I will tell you this, I would go collect empty cans and bottles across the country if I needed to afford to pay for whatever the cost would be of a 2-night immersive Twilight Zone Tower of Terror hotel experience. It would, whatever I had to do to afford that experience, I would do it. And I think there's one of those for everyone, right? Like, we'll probably never get the Tower Terror one because it's not an IP and they hate us. But there's some people who have messaged me already and they're like, all right, when am I getting Avengers? And I'm like, I think you got a while, but I think eventually you'll get it.
Well, I mean, and to this point, you could do more with Star Wars. You could do an original trilogy. It would be great to go back to that period of the Halcyon when
that's,
Han
I think, why the
Leia
ship
were
is
there.
275 years old, right? That's the whole reason they gave it this long lifespan, is because then you can, in 10 years, be like, we're turning back the clock, and here's what the Halcyon was at this particular moment in time. What's interesting now, that they've said during that period, it was actually under Imperial control, so maybe you'll be there at the time at which the Empire, you know, the story will be the Empire actually winning and taking control of the Halcyon, or who knows? Yeah, who knows? Or maybe it'll be the siege in which the rebellion freed the ship from the Empire. Maybe it'll be that. I don't know. So I think it is inevitable that someday Batu and the Starcruiser are original trilogy. It is a matter of time. But they have to get a return. The ROI's got to be there, right? The return on investment. Sure. And so it's going to be a hot minute until they have that return on investment. I'm going to say you have at least until 2027, probably a little longer now. I know that was the original date of whatever the expansion attraction or expansion of Batu is going to be. That's the date at which it was originally intended, but with COVID, that pushed things back probably either indefinitely or permanently. So we'll see what happens, but I think 5 to 10 years. 5 to 10 years, it's something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree they should have had 2 different ones. The one in California should have been different from the one in Orlando and give you reasons to go to
I mean, it still can be if they build it.
Yeah, you're right. Russ, $5 super chat. Thank you, Russ. I have some medical supplies that I like to keep. I like to keep my luggage with me. Can I carry my own luggage on and off?
I would say yes, but they're going to have to open your luggage on the table. That's it. It might take a few minutes, but yeah, they'll let you. They're going to go through your bag in front of you and in front of other people, so be prepared for that.
Dawn says, OG Trilogy, I will sell a kidney. Happy Magic Time says, donate plasma, baby. So yeah, apparently the original trilogy is definitely something. Here's a question that we've been asked a couple times. Are the Gaia and or the smuggling side plots as involved as the Rebel or First Order experiences?
Yeah. They're a big part of the Rebel, or the Resistance, I should say. They're a big part of the Resistance plot.
Gotcha.
There are many artifacts and things. Everyone wants a lot of stuff from Batu. Someone wants data tapes, who wants coaxium, who wants this weird ancient Jedi relic. Batu has got just so much good stuff that everyone wants, that those are all important things, all very important things. And what I think is cool is I was let down by Batu because they built up this whole backstory, and they talked about how Dak-Ondar had something that was really important, and the coaxium thing and all of that. And I felt like after experiencing all the attractions, I was like, I still don't have the payoff. Why is the coaxium important? What did Dak-Ondar have? What are these things? And then Starcruiser happened, and I'm like, oh, that's it. Like, you held it for this. Right. So if I want to know for real what all this was about, you've given me a place to go find out, and it resolves Batu. I like the Batu story a lot more now that I know what's actually going on in full, which the land doesn't give you that. And now you have it in full. And I think for all the people yelling about OG Trilogy, I think the problem for them is the same problem I had, where it's because there were still so many dots to connect on the Batu story that it was hard to really get into it. Once it all starts to unveil itself, it becomes a far more compelling and interesting story, and one that I would dare say is the second best story of the sequel trilogy. It's better than 2 of the movies. So I'm a big fan. As much as I know people are clamoring for OG trilogy Starcruiser, I think they will really fall in love with this story, and I think it deserves to have enough time to play out and be enjoyed by people.
Yeah, I saw somebody say something about it, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That would be cool. I also saw, in my head, the Haunted Mansion seems like the right move for something like this.
Solve that mystery, yeah. Kind of like a Clue.
But you're
like
saying,
a Clue hotel? Yeah.
But you're saying, though, that you appreciate Batu more now that you've been on this.
I appreciate the story. I still do not like the land. I don't like Oga's. Falcon's still kind of boring. And it still feels mostly dead because there's no kinetic features and no characters. So for all those reasons, I still don't care for Galaxy's Edge that much. Like, obviously, Rise is great, and the merchandise is cool, and Docking Bay and Rano have some good food. But other than that, it's good. It's not great. It could have been great if it had the things they cut from it that ended up in the hotel. And the hotel solidifies that. Starcruiser solidifies that Galaxy's Edge could have been the greatest thing they ever did. And instead it was not, and now this is probably one of the greatest things they've ever done.
Well, as long as there is imagination in the world, it will never be complete.
And as long as Bob Chapek isn't in the world, then maybe we can have it.
I have a question. The price point options, what price point options are there? I've tried to look for answers myself, but found Captain's Quarters, which is a bigger room essentially for bigger groups. I noticed when I go to the website that it's, if you click on a date, it's like, hey, you want to know about this 2-night voyage, call to confirm. So you can't actually book this online, right?
They want to make sure you're serious, yeah.
Okay. But is that information on the website about the different price points, or?
No, that's why they give you that sample pricing.
Gotcha. So you got to call and figure out what the actual.
You got to call and find out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, and again, thank you guys for all your questions. And Tom, I apologize that we've run a little long. We do have a post show for our WIGS members. So if you guys have any other questions that you would like to throw at us, please let us know. But know that Tom has been in space for so long, and now he has to go out to California soon too. So let's not keep him up too late. But and again, if you're watching and you haven't watched with us before, welcome. We appreciate you being here, and please make sure to subscribe to WDWNT for more great content, including all the Starcruiser stuff we've talked about. Please make sure to give us a like.
So much uploaded, so much more to be uploaded too.
Yep, and then don't forget that News Tonight is returning on St. Patrick's Day, correct?
March 17th, we are back with March Madness, a tournament of the 64 greatest rides or attraction scenes in the history of Walt Disney World.
And if you tune into ParksCenter next week, we will have a preview for you of March Madness as well, so that you can get your scorecards ready to go. Tom, before we move on, I just want to give you a chance to give your final thoughts on everything that we've talked about here. And when we do Deep in the Plus, I always say, we've talked about it, you've watched it, and now would you recommend it? So, I mean, again, you've talked a little bit about that, but just give us your final thoughts on this one.
I miss Streetmosphere at Hollywood Studios a lot. I miss that level. Same with Main Street Characters. I miss that level of Disney interaction where they are these characters with these rich backstories. They're original, and you get to sort of live in their world for a little bit with them. And that's what Starcruiser does so well. But then it also ties into this grander and grandiose backstory that eventually pays off in really fun ways. And all through it, you get to basically become a Streetmosphere character and play along with these people, these incredible entertainment people. I think it's kind of a dream come true, and beyond that, then it also, so much of it feels like Star Wars, and there's so many thoughtful aspects of it, and the coolest thing overall is the layering of story, where each event is not just the event that's advertised on your schedule. If there's a Gaia performance, that Gaia performance is never just a Gaia performance. It also ends up being 2 other stories that happen at the same time. She's singing and other things are going on in the room. And depending where you are in the room, you get a completely different show from everyone else. And that kind of layering happens every single moment entertainment is out on this ship. And beyond that, you have cast members, non-entertainment cast that just are part of the story and so into it and so caring. And just so much effort from start to finish to present something new and different and wonderful that Starcruiser is, without a doubt, a reason to go to Disney World. And I think there are very few reasons why Disney World wins over other Disney resorts worldwide. We often don't have to try, but this was clearly a vanity project in which the creative people, because there was so much money to be made from it, were allowed to do nearly everything they possibly could have wanted, and they've built essentially a WDI playground. It is a playground with new technology and opportunities to play along that guests have never gotten to this point. And it is really rewarding and fun and memorable and emotional. You get very emotionally invested in it, which is when I think Disney is at its best. Like everything Walt created, the idea was you would get emotionally involved. For every laugh, there is a tear. You want your audience to be emotionally involved. And that's why I say with theme parks, people so often are like, oh, shouldn't it just be fun? And they all laugh about it when we analyze these things. And I think to simplify this art form down to it should just be fun sometimes is kind of derogatory. So this is absolutely at its core a lot of fun, but you get so emotionally invested because everyone around you is trying so hard to present a story. And so every aspect of it, to the point at which literally we didn't even get to talk about D309 in the course of this 2-hour show. Just the robot that talks to you through the TV in the wall, I was getting emotional at the fact that she was saying goodbye at the end because we had come to know her, because the show writing for her was so thoughtful and cute and creative and fun that by the time she is getting sad that you're leaving, you're sad too. This imaginary character that's AI in the wall is eliciting emotion from you, that's Disney. That is what Disney is. Disney makes you feel things. And that's when Disney is at its best, and Galactic Starcruiser is Walt Disney Imagineering and Disney Entertainment and Disney theme parks at its best and what it is meant to be.
Fine. Take it. I'm coming.
That wasn't nearly enough. I could see that covers you for half a night, Rob. We can't.
Just take it all, man. Just take it all. I mean, I've talked before about, again, that when you go to a Disney experience, things are going to change as time goes on. I want to see it in its original intended format. So thank you so much for putting me in for the captain's quarters again. That's awesome. I appreciate that. And you're like, for the love of God, stop.
I've got myself in such a hole.
No, but thank you, Tom, for doing this tonight. I've seen a lot of comments in the chat of people who appreciate not only the again, the integrity that you've paid to go on these trips to give an honest review, all the amazing coverage that's available on WDWNT.com. The guides, your own experiences, and then adding this Q&A to the list. So thank you for being on here and doing it. We appreciate it. I know you got a lot of other stuff going on. So
so much more Starcruiser to come, where you haven't even gotten half of the stuff out yet. So don't worry. There'll be if there's a question we haven't answered, it'll be answered this week.
And then finally, we'll have a quick post show because we've had a 2-hour show instead of a 90-minute show.
Yes.
So we'll have a quick post show.
Please, I have several more shows to film tonight. Please.
And so if you're a WIGS member, we will be with you in a moment. If you don't know about WIGS, that is our WDWNT Interglobe Society. You can find out more at patreon.com/WDWNT. Also, remember, you can support everyone at WDWNT by going to carouselproducts.com and buying some really cool shirts, including the Sunny Eclipse shirt and the Space Angel shirts that are on sale now, with some very cool things coming soon too. So thanks again for being here. Thanks for spending your Sunday night with us. Thanks, Tom, again, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good one.